You will never guess what game we just played. It starts with a Vale and ends with an Eternity, but we played it with Artifacts, the first expansion, and the brand new second expansion, which is coming to Essen, I believe. It's called Curse. Curse. It's spooky. Not really spooky as much as it is. It feels a little deadly.
I don't know. This tree is spooky.
It is spooky. It comes with another piece.
First of all, I just want to say that that's cool.
None of
these pieces of cardboard really matter. This one actually matters maybe more than some because it has kind of all the steps of the game.
Also, this has the artifacts have the new points. This is probably the most superfluous.
But they're cool. And I like this spooky tree. And the fact that the spooky tree kind of sits in the middle of this pile of cursed tokens, which when you open the box for this new expansion, I think that's the first thing you're going to notice is there's just a ton of these cursed tokens.
Yeah, and guess what? They're going to be all over your cards if you draft or summon those cards. So we wanted to talk about what Curse brings to the table. I also wanted to address, if you watch the channel, I need to address the elephant in the room. We did a video on the Artifacts expansion, and we kind of asked ourselves, is this the perfect expansion? And a lot of us, we discussed it. You know, some thoughts were, does a perfect expansion make it exactly where it needs to be? And I think if memory serves me correctly, I kind of felt that was the case. And we thought, will there be another? Well, there is. Now, I would think that this might be the last one for a couple reasons. One, I do think it brings the game up to a point where if they add more, it will start to become a game that feels less like the original Vale of Eternity. And two, and maybe the more obvious one, is there's 3 boxes that make a nice scene now. And while they could potentially add more boxes to the sides
I like where it stands.
I think it works really well.
Well, let's talk about that complexity because I feel like we talked about artifacts and artifacts just adds literally those artifact tiles. The only burden on you that it adds is something at the start of the round. You need to choose an artifact. It does introduce some new mechanics like the sheltering of cards and things like that. Yeah. I think this actually introduces less overall, but it maybe interacts with the game in a more significant way, if that makes sense, because really all it's introducing in its core are these curse tokens, and it is introducing like a new step at the end of the round and some new ways to score points or potentially lose points, because I think one of the most important things to recognize is that all these curses, you're getting them through all these kinds of ways. They're all worth -2 points at the end of the game if you have them in front of you. But conversely, all of the stuff that the curses adds, all the new cards that curse adds and the variable player powers that we'll talk about, they're all kind of designed to help mitigate these. So you have the kind of this cycle of like gaining these negative points and then trying to get rid of them. And I don't think that adds like a heavy cognitive load onto the game.
Yeah, and I will add to that. I would say while curses are obviously the namesake of the expansion, Curse, there are also these wards. These wards are going to add some things. And like Ryan just alluded to, the variable player powers. I mean, that's what we always want. In fact, I think we theorized about that last time, and our wish came true. But those are the 3 big pillars of what this thing has going on. The curses are going to be something you need to navigate. But overall, and I was saying this while we played, I think this expansion just expands your tool set significantly, because not only do you have a variable player power, but that player tile kind of will flip throughout the game. Some of them will flip back and forth. I think maybe one or maybe more, but one of them at least just flips and stays there. So the powers can change. And you can utilize that by like using the power on one side, flipping it, and then usually if they flip back, there's another thing that they can do that then flips them back. So you can kind of, again, utilize that as you play. And what I learned in my first game with Ryan is that he's more adept at picking up on the new tool set. Like he straps on the new tool belt and he uses all the tools. I lay the tool belt out in front of me and I play the same game that I played before. I wasn't really utilizing my guy. And then I started doing it.
You definitely were.
And it really expands this game.
Yeah, and those it's tough to talk about how cool those variable player powers are until you actually play the game. But that whole flipping mechanic drives what you're doing, because you can kind of almost think of it as like little mini goals. Like most of the characters have a goal on one side that says, if you do this, flip. If you don't do that, it stays on this side. Like I said, for my example, we've got these tokens right here.
Yeah, the wards.
The wards. If you use a ward, you can flip it over to its broken side and effectively get 2 currency, 2 gems 2
Stones.
You're sorry. You're lowering the price of anything by 2. If I use one for that 2 benefit, my guy flips. If I don't use one, my guy stays where he is, and I actually recover one of these back to its good side to use later. But if I do flip him, he gives me one of the 3 stones. So it's like I have to decide, do I want to do the thing that flips him and get the 3 stone, or do I want to leave him on his normal side and mend one of these? Because if you mend them all, then you can start taking curses off of yourself and start mitigating those points. So it's really a decision that you're making every single turn of like, how do I want to handle this guy? And sometimes I want to use one of these wards to get the value, even though I don't necessarily want to flip my guy. So I think it just added this whole decision-making process that isn't always there in variable player powers in other games.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Mine's a little more straightforward. Mine had an ongoing power that said whenever you summon a card of a family you don't have into your area, I'll earn a 3 token, a stone, and flip the card. Then it turns into a resolution action, which is, if you haven't played the game, a thing that happens, a phase that happens at the end of each round where you go through and resolve all your resolution cards. This is included. I can either mend one of those wards or just simply earn a 1 stone and flip. But if I want to flip back, I have to take the 1 stone option. So if I've broken a bunch of my wards, then I might want to just mend it, and then it stays here and I can keep mending it at the end of every round for a while until I have all of those mended. The other thing that's cool about mending is if all of your wards are in good shape and you mend, it allows you to take curses off of your character, because I don't think we mentioned this, but all the characters will start with some amount of curses on them. Yeah. And all the cursed cards, are a lot of them. I'd say most,
not all of them.
Most of the cards in the new expansion, when you play them or summon them, you put curse tokens on them, and then at the end of the round, some of those curse tokens are going to go to your character. The bad news is at the end of the game, all of those are worth -2 points, so you want to try to get rid of them, and you can by mending if your wards are all in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the main way, other than finding some cards. So you're going to have to make that decision of like, do I want to use the value? I think all of the characters have some way of mending, because that is a core part of this curse, is like mending is the way to get rid of these. And David mentioned that, you know, when you play some of these new cards that from the curse expansion, they come with curse tokens on them. Generally speaking, at least I'm starting to see, we haven't played through all of them because you're adding in a ton more cards, but they seem very, very good. But they're coming with something like David played one that gives you an extra stone, which we've seen that before, but it gives you an extra stone and every turn generates stones, which is huge, but it came with -6 points. At the end of every round, these curse tokens go onto your character card, and if you ever take the last curse token off, the card actually goes away. It becomes soothed. It goes into a special discard pile where it's now worth 1 point at the end of the game, but it's taken out of your row. So some of these curse cards can be very powerful, but they don't always last long. There are some ways that you can like add more curses to these cards or return them to your hand and then play them again, which would reset the curse countdown. So those curse cards are kind of a fight. If you really want them, you know, you want to keep adding curses to them, but it's actually kind of cool because if it's like a lightning ability, a one-time effect,
soothing is good.
Yeah, it goes away and it's not taking up a spot anymore. Sometimes you have to pay a lot of money to get cards out of your tableau, but the curse ones will just go away on their own. And again, that's something that you're going to have to weigh with each individual curse card.
Yeah, I think that adding that soothing aspect and allowing that to let people get cards out of their area, and so that they can play more cards. Because again, if you haven't played Vale of Eternity, and it pretty soon we'll assume that you have if you're watching this video, but if you haven't, you have a limited amount of space in your area. It's limited to the round, whatever round you're in. So if you're in round 3, you can only have 3 cards. The first expansion had some stuff that'll added areas, so you could actually break that rule. This one gives you another tool to sort of remove cards, that soothing effect, which is really cool, and I think just turns the game into something that you're bound to have more fulfilling situations, because you can oftentimes find yourself like, I don't have space. I've played this many cards. This is just another option to get cards in here temporarily and time them out. And like Ryan said, some of them might have ongoing abilities that you're going to miss when they time out.
Yeah,
But the other ones that are just instants, you want to get those out eventually anyway. So it's really nice to have that flexibility.
So I think one thing that people are probably asking is when we're talking about these expansions, mixing and matching them, you can definitely just play Curse with the base game. You don't need artifacts. One thing that's interesting to note, Artifacts increase the score limit to 80 points. If you wanted to play with artifacts, the game goes until 80. Curse does not do that. If you're adding the Curse expansion into the base game, you're just still playing to 60 points. However, if you add artifacts in with it, then you're still playing to 80. But it's interesting to me, artifacts increase that cap, but Curse doesn't. So they must have felt like artifacts gives you more points because those artifacts have really powerful abilities. But I find that having some of these Curse cards and having that the mend tokens that let you get like a 2-stone discount, those I think help. You can get some significant points with these new cards too. So
well, it lets you do a lot more on your turn. Whether that results in points or not is up to the cards that you're taking in the game and how you're playing it. Either way, whether it's a cap of 60 or 80, an interesting thing takes place here. Obviously, the game is going to be triggered. So say you're playing with artifacts, you trigger it at 80. At the end of the game, after that's been triggered, you're then going to look at all those potential negative points and positive points. You get 1 point for each ward token that's intact, your soothe cards, but you lose 2 points for every curse token you have. So you could dip back
a lot of points.
You could dip back down below 80, for example, and still win the game.
Sure.
Which is an interesting thing where I could win with 76 points or 74 points or something like that because no one is able to reach me. But like in this first example of our first play here, I was going after all these curse cards because, like Ryan said, you look at their powers and you're like, oh, that's cool. Not to mention they're the shiny new penny, right?
Sure.
Like we're looking at these cards for the first time compared to some of our old favorites that are kind of like, nah, I've played that one before. Sure. So you want to try some of these. You get them in, and then pretty soon I've got what, 6, 7, 8? I've got negative 18 points right now.
Sure.
Now, like I said, I could ride my character off into the sunset and hopefully get rid of some of these things, but you're only going to get rid of one of those per round with the natural mend that she has. So I think in most cases, people are going to end with some negative points.
Yeah, I mean, some of these characters are more equipped to deal with these negative curses than others. I mean, there's a whole stack of characters, and all these characters flip. I mean, some of these characters are really cool. There's one, like we said, the one that just flips straight over. There's a character that lets you earn your artifacts twice. There's a character that helps you mend faster to remove curses. And this guy, he actually adds a curse token to non-curse cards. And when that curse token comes off, that card gets soothed anyway.
Another way to get rid of more cards.
It gets a way to remove some of those cards that didn't start with curses. And playing to these cards' strength is, I think, really important.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've got a few here. This guy, it should be noted too, some of these start with variable number of curses on them. There's one here that starts with 0 curses on him, but there's going to be more curses added to him for one reason or another. One of the most interesting characters, IWO is the name.
IWO, yeah.
The Thrill Seeker. You start with 7 curses, but your ward tokens start broken. So you won't be able to spend your ward tokens for the extra $2 when you need them, or 2 stones. But it says whenever you earn 7 points or more by resolving an instant ability. So you basically have to build up to a point where you play an instant card, and that card earns you 7 or more points. At that point, he flips. He does not flip back over. I think he might be the only one that doesn't.
I think he's the only one that doesn't flip back over. Yeah.
Oh no, there's another one here. Yeah, there's another one. But then he's very powerful. So ongoing breaking wards from that point forward gets you 3 stone value instead of 2, which is huge. And at the end of every round, you can mend up to 3 of them. So you're effectively getting an extra $6, stones per round. At that
potentially, you can only use 1 ward per card, so you got to play 3 cards to make that value. But that's still, true. Yeah, that's really good. He can also mend a lot better. He can remove curses a lot better, which is why he starts, I think, with 7 curses because and I think some of these characters you kind of know when you see other players play them as you kind of learn them. Like once that guy flips, let's rush the end of the game because we don't want him to get the full value of removing 3 curses every turn, right?
Yeah, this guy actually starts with an extra card in their hand immediately, which is very cool. Like, you're not going to get a lot of cards in this game. And again, if you haven't played, you're getting basically 2 cards per round naturally. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there are plenty of other ways where you can like play a card, maybe draw a card, things like that.
Artifacts, maybe.
Bring in the retrievable cards, things like that. But like, the variable player powers are really cool. And what are there? 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8 different characters, 2 sides each. I think this expansion, like I said earlier, it truly brings this game, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, and you probably already know if you watch the channel, Vale of Eternity is one of my favorite games of all time, if not maybe approaching my favorite game of all time. This brings it to a point where I genuinely think I don't know that I'd want more. Now, I'll tell you right now, if they publish another expansion, we're certainly going to give it a try.
I love that you're like, I don't think this game needs more, but I will buy it in a heartbeat. Whatever it is, I'll take it.
I'm not going to be closed-minded, but my hunch is that this game now, with all of this, when you're playing with both expansions together, for me personally, it brings it to the point where I really kind of don't want any more out of it.
Here's my thought.
Okay.
I'm just say this. I didn't need an expansion and I was wary of artifacts and I ended up liking it.
That's true.
I didn't think it needed a second expansion, but I really like Curse. At this point, I'm willing to put some trust in them and say, if they come out with another one, I trust that they're building to something that works, right? And the first time they prove me wrong, then I'll be done with it. I'll say, I don't need any more expansions now. Because I really don't need more.
But I don't want them to reach that point where
I don't want them to ruin it.
It's like, I don't want Lost season, I don't want a show that goes on and goes on too long.
You don't want the Writer's Strike season? Is that what you're saying? You don't want the Writer's Strike expansion here?
I want them to have the right amount of television seasons with this and end it when they need to. And I think this might be where that is.
I would be happy with this being it, honestly.
Yeah, I really think it's a really great game. We've only played this once, and we're certainly going to get this played more.
Very excited to film about it.
I'm excited to actually get this played with more people. I wonder if when I introduce it to new people, although side note, I don't know there's many new people I haven't introduced it to yet, because everyone in my circles, I've made sure they've played it. But this would be difficult, more challenging to bring both of these expansions to the table when you're teaching.
It just adds a little bit more to the teach for sure. And still not heavy.
But if anyone's ever played even just the base game, I think you could play with both of these, particularly with enthusiast gamers, for sure. This definitely takes it to a heavier weight, I think. You're largely doing a lot of the same things, but that tool belt, like I said, brings a lot more thinkiness to what you're trying to get done. But that is Vale of Eternity base game with artifacts, but with the new expansion Curse. If you have any questions at all about the entire set of games or Curse in particular, let us know in the comments below. We'll get down there, answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.